So welcome to our, I think this is our one, two, three, four, five, six, seventh study, 7 week of study of the Psalms. And just to let so you know, we go through just before Thanksgiving, that Tuesday before the 19th, which I guess is a week and a half or so before Thanksgiving. And then we'll take a break until after the first of the year. So just so everybody knows of that schedule. But we're trying to read through all 150 Psalms, the good ones, the bad ones, the ugly ones, all of them are packed in there. So I hope you've enjoyed doing this. And each night also, we have used one of the Psalms as our devotion. And so tonight I'm going to read Psalm 56 as our devotional as we get started this evening. So, Psalm 56. Have mercy on me, O God, for people are hounding me all day long. They assault and oppress me. My enemies hound me all the day long. True, there are many who fight against me from high ground. Whenever I am afraid, I will put my trust in you. In God, whose word I praise, in God I trust and will not be afraid. For what can flesh do to me? All day long they damage my cause. Their only thought is to do me harm. They band together. They lie in wait. They spy upon my footsteps because they seek my life. Deliver them over to trouble, O God. In your anger, cast down the peoples. You have noted my lamentation. Put my tears into your bottle. Are they not recorded in your book? Whenever I call upon you, my enemies will be put to flight. This I know, for God is on my side. In God, whose word I praise, in the Lord, whose word I praise. In God I trust and will not be afraid. For what can mortals do to me? I am bound by the vow I made to you, O God. I will present to you thank offerings, for you have rescued my soul from death and my feet from stumbling, that I may walk before God in the light of the living. Okay, so some interesting things there in Psalm 56. This idea of God granting mercy to our souls is a theme that we see throughout the Psalter. I also thought this an interesting point where he says, "You've noted my lamentations." This is verse 8. Put my tears into your
Yeah.
bottle. Are they not recorded in your book? Like, save them up, remember them. Remember that I wept for you and for the things that I did, etc. It's sort of an interesting take on that there. So
Yeah.
Psalm 56 we have for today. And of course, the overall Psalms that we have are Psalm 54 to 61. I want to point out one interesting thing about the 8 Psalms that we have today. 4 of them were not fodder for the previous hymnal, and 4 of them were. And I always think that's interesting when we come across that. And we're hitting some early like this. And so the old Lutheran hymnals did not include 4 of the Psalms that we have for today, but they did include 4 of them. So they sort of split it down the middle. And 56 is one of the ones that they did included for worship. So we're going to take a look at that. But the other thing that I wanted to do just briefly today excuse me, was I want to look at the whole Jewish situation a little bit because I think sometimes we need to remember what is the context out of which these psalms were written, and who are these people that we know as the Jews, people that obviously were born in the land of Israel, spent time in captivity in Egypt, followed their leader Moses back home, then were hauled off into captivity in Babylon, and then it occurred back home. Who are these people? And it's always interesting that I think sometimes, like the people of Israel, our memories are short and we don't always remember. And this was very glaring to me in this Sunday's gospel reading. It was Reformation Sunday here at Prince of Peace. I had no voice yet, and I'm getting mine back, thanks be to God. But I had no voice, so I was sort of off to the side. But if you remember in the gospel reading that Pastor Tim read, when the Jews said to Jesus, if you remember this, he said, "We are children of Abraham. We have never been slaves to anyone." Now, I don't know about you, but did that raise an alarm in your head? Like, what are you talking about? is this the Jewish people? I mean, do you not celebrate Passover as the main sort of story of your life, where you were brought from captivity to freedom by Moses and you were given the law in the wilderness? What are you talking about? We've never been slaves to anyone. You've been slaves to most everyone. And
Right.
yet sometimes our memories are short about who we are and where we come from. This is also true in the American narrative. And sometimes we repeat the same mistakes over and over again as a country because we fail to remember that, yeah, didn't we just do that 20 years ago? Why are we doing that again? And yet sometimes we come back to it. So I just want to take a little bit of a look here at a couple of things from the book of Exodus to remind us who the Jewish people are. So if you're turning your Bibles as a start today to look at what I call some of the Jewish experience, and we're going to look at this a couple different times throughout the years in addition to the Psalms. But if you turn your Bibles to the first chapter of Exodus,
Mm.
so Exodus verse 1, chapter 1, verse 1.
Got the study Bible.
So the second book of the Bible, Exodus. Genesis is a big book. It's 50 chapters.
Yeah.
All right. And just to remind you of the story, you can even flip back a little bit and remember it, is that we begin Exodus when things were still okay in Egypt. So if you remember Joseph, there were 12 sons of Jacob. The youngest one was Joseph, not the youngest one, but the brat child was Joseph. Benjamin was the youngest. And they sold him into captivity because he was sort of a smartass. And they sold him into captivity to some Egyptians who came by. They took him, held him in captivity, but he rose out of that until he became sort of the right hand man to Pharaoh. When a famine occurred in Israel, the other brothers of Joseph came down to Egypt. And of course, Joseph recognizes them. They don't recognize him because the last time they saw him, he was a kid at the bottom of a pit that they had thrown down there to die and then sold him off to captivity, right? So they had long forgotten about Joseph. But he remembered them. And if you can remember, if you just want to flip back a page to Genesis 50, verse 15, I just love this.
Genesis
Genesis 50, chapter 50, verse 15.
Got
It
it.
should be page 4.
That's right, the next
Okay. You with me? It should be the page right
last
before.
page. Yeah.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Chapter 50, verse 15. Realizing that their father was dead, Joseph's brothers said, "What if Joseph still bears a grudge against us and pays us back in full for all the wrong that we did to him?" So they approached Joseph, saying, "Your father gave this instruction before he died." So not only did they sell him into captivity, now they're lying. I mean, it's just like it's somewhat amazing. Say to Joseph, "I beg you, forgive the crime of your brothers and the wrong they did in harming you. Now, therefore, please forgive the crime of the servants of the God of your father." Joseph wept when they spoke to him. Then his brothers also wept, fell down before him, and said, "We are here as your slave." But Joseph said to them, "Do not be afraid." I just love this. Am I in the place of God? Even though you intended to do harm to me, God intended it for good, in order to preserve a numerous people as he is doing today. So have no fear. I myself will provide you and for your little ones. In this way, he reassured them, speaking kindly to them. I mean, I just love that. I mean, is that the heart of forgiveness? Even though you meant to do me harm and sell me off to captivity and basically allow me to be kidnapped into a culture that I didn't know with people that God meant it for the good. It was part of God's plan. And I know that it's not always easy to do this, but one of the things that I would suggest sometimes is that every once in a while look back at your life. And sometimes there are moments when you wonder, where is God in the midst of this? All right. like in the details sometimes, and at the moment you may not see. But sometimes I think if we pull back sometimes and look over the 10, 20-year stretch of our lives, it may be sometimes easier for us to see the way in which God, in fact, was at work in our lives. Sometimes we didn't see it, sometimes we didn't recognize it. And yet, even in the midst of pain and sorrow and brokenness, and even sometimes, to quote the psalmist here, in the midst of our own sin, God is still with us and God is still working in the midst of us. I had a seminary professor who used to always say, and I just love this, and I'm sure I've told you this before, but he used to say, not everything that happens is God's will. All right? There's lots of things that happen that are not God's will: death, destruction, killing, sin, etc. So not everything that happens is God's will. But, he said, in everything that happens, God has a will. You see the difference?
No. Let's see.
Okay, let me say it again. Not everything that happens is God's will. There's things that happen that are outside God's will in this world. We can name them. We'll turn on the 11 o'clock news. All right.
Yeah. Okay.
But,
I understand that part.
but
It's the second part.
okay. But in everything that happens, God has a will. Let me give you an example. God did not wish that the Palestinians and the Israelis would kill each other. He didn't wish for the events of October, where the Palestinians erupted and killed all the Jews. He didn't wish for the Jews to bomb them and kill them. But in the midst of what happened, I believe that God had a will for peace, even in the midst of that. Do you see the difference?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So we do things in this world, things happen in this world all the time. And there are some people who say, well, it must be God's will if that's what happened. No, there are many things that happen that are not God's will, including our own disobedience and sin. But in the midst of what happens, God still has a path for us to trod, a way for us to go in spite of what happened. Okay? So here's Joseph with his brothers down in Egypt. They're there because they sold him out and now came looking for food. He's in charge of things and he forgives them and also gives them what they need and agrees to provide for them. Okay? Now flip the page and we get to Exodus. So Exodus chapter 1, verse 1. These are the names of the sons of Israel who came to Egypt with Jacob, each with his household: Reuben, Simon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin, Dan and Naphtali, Gad and Asher. The total number of people born to Jacob was 70. You catching that? 70. Joseph was already in Egypt. Then Joseph died, and all his brothers, and that whole generation. But the Israelites were fruitful and prolific. They multiplied and grew exceedingly strong, so that the land was filled with them. And then this, verse 8. Now, and in my Bible used to say, a Pharaoh arose over Egypt, a king who did not know Joseph. Are you sensing a problem here? The great Joseph, who was a mighty Israeli, told his captors that. The Pharaoh loved him in spite of that. But now a king is born who doesn't know Israel. And now look at the problem and think present day, okay? He said to the people, look, the Israelite people are more numerous and more powerful than we. Come, let us deal shrewdly with them, or they will increase. And in the event of war, join our enemies and fight against us and escape from the land. Therefore, they set taskmasters over them to oppress them with forced labor. They built supply cities, Pithom and Ramses for Pharaoh. But the more they oppressed, the more they multiplied and spread. So the Egyptians came to dread the Israelites. The Egyptians became ruthless in imposing tasks on the Israelites and made their lives bitter with hard service in mortar and brick and in every kind of field labor. They were ruthless in all the tasks that they imposed upon them. Okay? So the Israelites come to Egypt. At first, they're in favor. They grow too many in number, and all of a sudden, they become a threat to us. By the way, I hate to put too fine a point on this, but in our country, refugees have come here and they've done a lot of the crap jobs that no one else has wanted to do. Like, I don't know, put on roof shingles, dig ditches, do the housework at hotels and lobbies, and all the kinds of things that Americans didn't want to do. And all of a sudden, they've liked it here and they've multiplied. And now there are many, many more of them. And what happens when that happens? The status quo gets afraid. So now what do we want to do? Kick them out, right? Get rid of them. They're a burden upon us. There are too many of them now. Does it sound vaguely familiar?
Yeah, this
Vaguely. I know
verse in
it's not exact. Go ahead.
in Exodus seems, it's like, we don't want these Israelites to be our enemies, so let's oppress them.
Yeah, because that's always helpful. Because that's how you make friends, is by oppressing.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so just to set the context for you here, all right? A famine drove the Israelites to Egypt, where eventually, over several generations, they continued to multiply, and then they were enslaved. They kept their religion, although I just want you to think about this for a second. Even though they were Israelites at this time, it certainly was much more of a race of people than it was a religion. All right? Because think about it. At this time, it was prior to the Ten Commandments, right? There was no Moses yet, right? So we don't have that. We don't have Levitical law. We don't have the temple. We don't have Torah. We don't have none of that yet. So if you think about it, just the Israelites that were down here in Egypt, that Moses would eventually gather together and bring out of Egypt, wander for 40 years in the desert, and then eventually get into the Holy Land. These people at the time were more of a race than a religion. Are you with me here? Okay, it wasn't a matter, even though they certainly prayed and believed in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they would not have had the tools and the Levitical class and priests and all this that they would later on. A lot of that developed obviously when they were on the road. Okay. All right. So I just want to make this as clear as I can. Famine. They go down to Egypt. They become enslaved. Eventually, Moses will gather them. He will be their leader. He will lead them out of slavery, time of the Passover, when God passed over, saved, if you want to think of it that way, the people of Israel, did not kill them, but killed the firstborn of every Egyptian, came out as a group, and then this group begins to form a body politic, if you will, a religion of faith based on the words that came down on the mountain from Moses. Y'all with me here?
Yeah.
This all precedes the temple or anything like that. It's sort of like, if you think about it, the disciples and Jesus, and we think about them as the early church, but were they really? I mean, they obviously didn't have scriptures. They didn't have the Eucharist. They didn't have baptism. We talk about baptism. There's no evidence, by the way, unless it happened by John, that any of the disciples were baptized, right? It doesn't say so in the New Testament. Now, they could have had John's baptism as Jesus did, but there's no record of them being baptized in the New Testament. All that stuff we think of as church and faith and the sort of meat of who we are as a religion comes later. And so it is with the people of Israel too. They developed as a people. But at the heart of the development of this people, and I think this is what's important for our study of the Psalms, and the reason I wanted to take a little sidetrack here, is that these are people who are used to being oppressed. All right? They are refugee people. They are people who knew a time without any homeland. They were wanderers. They were forming who they were, sometimes by taking 2 steps forward and 2 steps backward. You know what I mean? This happened. They get out in the wilderness and they're glad that God has delivered them, and they're there for about a nanosecond, and then they're crabbing at Moses, where's the water? What are we going to eat out here? And so he cracks the rock and the water comes out of the rock. Then he gives them manna and he gives them quail, but it's never enough, right? This is the people who will collect this book that we have, the book of Psalms. All right. This is a people who knew captivity, who knew enslavement, who knew not having a homeland, who were raw and rugged and trying to form themselves as a people. Eventually, they will make it to the Holy Land. All right. But even at this time, in the time of David, that's when the Psalms were put together, they had not yet been off to captivity, although I think these Psalms were collected, right? Solomon, David, Saul before David, that happens before the Babylonian captivity. You with me? Just in timeline here. So all of that comes to form the people we know as the people of Israel. But I'm just saying at their very heart is this sense of who are we? Is God there for us? How can we be safe? I just want you to think about what it would mean if your formation story as a family started when you decided to take the wagons to the West Coast. All right, which people did. If that's your formation as a story, as a family, you may sense differently what life is like. My guess is on that trek westward, you had times when you were hungry. You had times when you were threatened by Native American peoples or by robbers or whatever. When you're not home, you're not settled. That's the people of Israel. The truth is they're never quite home. All right. Even during the kingdom of David, which is a very short time, even then, they barely get the temple built before it's all destroyed. You see what I mean? They're always a people on the move. And even today, I think there is within being a Jewish person, especially after the Holocaust, there's this feeling deep within Judaism and being a Hebrew person that you're persecuted, that the world is against you, so you have to hang on to God. Is everybody with me? I don't want to put too fine a point on this, but I think it's important to understand that this was not a people who celebrated a fantastic upbringing. They came out of slavery and spent 40 years in the desert. I hardly think that was a picnic, right? They
Oh,
weren't going there to play golf. They were going there to dread
no.
the elements and everything else. Okay? Comments on that.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay?
agree
So
too.
so in that context, let's take a look at some of the Psalms that we have for today. Okay, so if you want to flip back to the Psalms,
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
I want to read these today in the context of who the people of Israel are. Okay, so Psalm 54 would be our first Psalm for tonight. I use Psalm 56 as a prayer, but I want to look at Psalm 54. By the way, being away like this together also builds community. What do corporations and churches do in order to build community? They go on a retreat, right?
That's right.
We
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
We do it as a council. We do it with our confirmation kids. You get away, and when you're away like that, you have to depend on each other. You have to focus on each other. You have to learn to live with each other. All of that stuff sort of happened in the 40 years of wilderness with Israel. And by the way, some of it was very good. Some of it was very cruddy also, just like it would be when you are on a retreat with somebody. You have good times and bad times, right? So here, Psalm 54. Save me, O God, by your name, and vindicate me by your might. Psalm 54. Hear my prayer, O God. Give ear to the words of my mouth. For the insolent have risen against me. The ruthless seek my life. They do not set God before them. I have God. God is my strength. The other people out there are ruthless, pagan. They don't understand what is of value in this life. Verse 4. Surely God is my helper. The Lord is the upholder of my life. He will repay my enemies for their evil. In their faithfulness, put an end to them. Okay? So I want you to think about this again in the context of being an Israelite. Look at verse 5. He will repay my enemies for their evil. In your faithfulness, he will put an end to them. Okay? What happened as the Israelites tried to cross the Red Sea? God, through Moses, opened up a path, and the people of Israel went through. And I love there's a wonderful hymn, "Come Ye Faithful, Raise the Strain," and one of the verses, "Led them with unmoistened foot." You know that
Yeah.
line in the hymn?
Yeah.
Led them with moistened foot, without a wet foot, through the Red Sea waters. It's a wonderful hymn. Anyways, God led the people of Israel through personally. Okay, they get to the place, the Egyptian army is coming, right? You with me here? There's no place to go. God opens the river, the Red Sea, they cross, and then when the Egyptians try, what does God do? God closes it back upon them and they drown. The God that the people of Israel learned about as they left Egypt was a God who they believed personally fought on their side. Do you see what I'm talking about? They believed that God personally, in a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night, you with me? He did this to save them. All right? That's a unique sort of thought as a group. All right? So if you look at verses 4 and 5, surely God is my helper. The Lord is the upholder of my life. He will repay my enemies for their evil. In your faithfulness, put an end to them. You can see the whole Red Sea story right there, can you not? He lets them through, slams the door on the Egyptians. All right. Now, the other
That
thing
doesn't last.
about this,
Okay.
go ahead.
But that
Sure,
doesn't
Kathy.
last, that doesn't last forever. In other words,
No,
yeah,
it was a moment in time.
it was a moment in
And
time.
as I mentioned before, it wasn't long till they are out there belly aching about the next thing. Right.
No, I'm not,
You know,
what I'm talking
and,
about,
and
uh,
they recognize when God saves them, but they're also quick to think, well, what about now? What are you going to do for me today? You see what I
and
mean?
they do talk about justice all the way through these Psalms. And sometimes justice does not prevail.
Sometimes it's not, but sometimes it is.
Yes, that's
And
true.
they would believe that ultimately justice is on their side. Now, of course, I mean, let's just be honest. All of this depends on whose ox is being gored here. I'm sure the Egyptians did not see what happened as God helping them out. They saw it as God allowing these people to escape and not helping us to capture them. I mean, we didn't. They were rightfully ours. We owned them. You see what I'm saying? So I mean, sometimes it
I
depends
do.
whose side on here where you see God at work. But it,
That's
or
true.
maybe they interpret the stories. Thank God we got rid of them. I don't know. But at least it depends sometimes what side you're on. But at any rate, the Israelites have a very much a core belief, and we see it here in the Psalter, that God has saved them. Now, the other piece of this that we see in the Psalter is that if God saves us, then we owe something back to God. You with me?
Oh, yeah. Hmm.
So God sends us a gift. We need to send a thank you card. Okay. So look here at verse 6. So God is my helper. Then verse 6. With a free will offering, I will sacrifice to you. I will give thanks to your name, O Lord, for it is good. For he has delivered me from every trouble, and my eye has looked in triumph on my enemies. If you think of that psalm as just sort of a remembrance of what happened at the Red Sea, you see it there, right? And now, because of that, my duty is to give thanks to God, right? God saves me. Now I have to give thanks, all right? Now we're going to look at a little bit, of course, in the Jesus narrative when Jesus comes. Does that still hold true? Or is God going to save us anyways? Or does God save us in spite of whether we give thanks or not? It's an interesting thing. I mean, of course, we just had the parable of the 10 lepers in which Jesus cleanses all 10, but only one, and that one a Samaritan, Jesus says, only one turned back to give thanks. Wah, wah, wah. Where are the other 9? But what Jesus didn't do was say, okay, you're good. Hey, you 9 over there, and put the hex back on them, right? He allowed them also to be clean and saved. And the reason I'm saying this a little bit is that in Christian theology, we don't believe that God's love for us is dependent on our response, that God loves us no matter what. Sometimes the response is appropriate, and we're aware how much God loves us, and we give thanks. And sometimes we go on our merry way and forget that we were saved. Okay? Both can happen. But here, this narrative is God saves you, and you return what we're going to call a thank offering. And that's also one of the reasons they built the temple. That was a place where you could go to give your thank offering to God. Because who was in the temple in the Holy of Holies? God was there. So therefore, you offer your sacrifice there. You'd kill a lamb, you'd kill a cow, you offer a chicken or a turtle dove in order to say thank you for what God has given you. All right. Now, we believe, of course, Christ turned that upside down, that Christ became the sacrificial offering. But if we just stick with the New Testament, you can see it here. All right. With me so far?
Mhm.
Let's look at Psalm 57. Just to skip ahead here a little bit. Be merciful to me, O God. Be merciful to me. For you in my soul takes refuge. In the shadow of your wings, I will take refuge. Remembrance of Psalm 91, right? The shadow of our wings. Until the destroying storms pass by. I cry to God Most High, to God who fulfills his purpose for me. He will send from heaven and save me, and he will put to shame those who trample on me, i.e., the chariots of Egypt. God will send forth his hesed. Now, I've gone over that word over and over again, steadfast love in his faithfulness. All right? So, verse 4, I love this. I lie down among lions that greedily devour human prey. Their teeth are spears and arrows, their tongues sharp swords. Be exalted, O Lord, above the heavens. Let your glory be over all the earth. Translation?
No.
What? What is the psalmist doing?
Begging to have the lions die.
Is he being mauled by the lions?
Mhm.
No, right?
No, he says he lies down among them.
I lie down. I'm taking a nap with the lions, right? And they're
Here, kitty,
devouring human, but not me, not me. Other humans, all right? Their teeth are spears and arrows, their tongue sharp, but they're not eating him, all right?
Oh,
He is saved from them. Do you see that?
yeah, I
Okay.
see that. Yeah.
So even nature recognizes that this is God's child. And nature itself, a lion, is not going to touch it. Be exalted, O God, verse 5, above the heavens. Let your glory be over all the earth. Verse 6, they, again, this is human beings, set a net for my steps. My soul was bowed down. They dug a pit in my path, but they have fallen into it themselves. Right? Exactly. My heart is steadfast, O God, my heart is steadfast. I will sing and make melody. Awake my soul, awake, O harp. I will awake the dawn. And again, praise offering here. God saves me. What do? Give thanks. Verse 8. Awake my soul, awake, O harp and lyre. I awake the dawn. I will give thanks to you, O Lord, among the nations. I will sing praises to you among the nations. For your steadfast love, your hesed, is high as the heavens. Your faithfulness extends to the clouds. Be exalted, O God, above the heavens. Let your glory be over all the earth. God is on my side. If I have troubles, it's with human beings who are evil. God and even nature knows that I am good and they protect me. You with me? Now, if you think God is always on your side, this can also lead to problems in the world.
You think?
Let me just mention a name like, I don't know, Bibi Netanyahu. He believes that God is on his side.
He does. Yes, he
So
does.
what he's doing is in the name of God. That
It's
can
a
be
holy
very
war
dangerous.
to him.
What's that?
It's a holy
sorry,
war
Mary.
to him.
Right, exactly. Then
Yeah.
what he's doing is what he believes God would want him to do, to save the people of Israel, because of this narrative that goes way back to the time of Exodus and before, that their God is with them and will be with them no matter what. And even when it seems that all around them are trying to put them in the pit and do all these evil things, God will stand by their side. All right. Now, what's
Since they
dangerous
don't,
about what's that?
since
ahead.
they don't believe Jesus was the Messiah, they're still waiting for that Messiah, and so no, that's
So therefore, then they have to do some things to ensure
Yeah.
their future
yeah,
in their product. And the danger, of course, is that if God is on my side, it means God's not on your side.
yeah.
Which now I sometimes call this vertical theology, that God and me is where we're at here. And what I believe is that Christ taught us horizontal theology.
Mhm.
In other words, it's all of us
That's-
together. It's us, right, that matters. But in this vertical theology that we hear a lot of today, God is on my side, therefore what I do is right.
That's true.
And I don't have to justify it. And if it means wiping you out and killing you so that you can't kill me, then so be it.
Mhm.
Because
Well,
obviously your family.
it always
Go ahead.
strikes me as odd. Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's odd when you have sports team. Thanks God for their victory on the field. Does that mean that God hates the other team? You know what?
No.
What's up with that?
Yeah, or if they hit a home run, they make the sign of the cross or whatever. I'm just sort of like,
Yeah.
what? I think God has bigger and better things to do.
Yeah.
I don't think God is blessing one team over another time. Although during the 1970s, God did bless the Cincinnati Reds to 2 World Series in a row. Just saying, but that was God's doing. Absolutely. But no, I'm kidding.
Pastor John, this is
Candy.
Candy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead.
okay. I'm working on my phone, so I don't even know if my picture is showing. Our computer's on the fritz, or at least the internet is. So I
It,
just
it
want to
just says,
jump in.
It says,
yeah, jump in. It says Candy's iPhone, so we know it was you. So yes, go ahead. Go ahead. Well, now I can't hear you.
we lost her.
So Candy, you were on with us and we heard what you had to say. Are you still out there?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I think Ron and I were heading somewhere like to France or someplace. And we were at Port Columbus or John Glenn, whatever they call it. And there was some young man, probably a college student, and he wore a t-shirt that said Jesus hates Michigan.
Oh, oh,
Isn't that terrible?
Yes.
yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
that someone would make a shirt like that and wear it. It's like we were just appalled. We didn't say anything, we didn't confront him, but it was just really bizarre.
It's just utter stupidity. I mean, yes, Jesus is not an Ohio State or Michigan fan or Michigan State or whoever else. That's ridiculous. Yes, I do not believe
He's a
that
Notre
Jesus hates
Dame
Michigan.
fan.
Oh, yes, of course. Yes,
I'm teasing.
of course.
I'm teasing.
No, I know. And I think sometimes people get swept up by their sports and things. And and I enjoy watching baseball and football and I'm all for competition and stuff, but it has nothing to do with Jesus. It has to do with people playing a game and Some people are better at it than others on a particular day, but it hasn't have anything to do with the gospel, you know. So we just need to
No.
move on. And people who use that for reasons to hate other people, that's sinfulness. That's not what Jesus wants. That's just sinful. So I think that's awful. So at any rate, so yes. So I think I may have said to some person, I think you're wrong. I'm an Ohio State fan, but I think you're wrong. So at any rate, let's move then to the other Psalm, Psalm 61. And the 4 Psalms that I've done are the 4 Psalms that are included in the prayer book. Psalm 55, 58, 59, 60 that I haven't talked about are excluded. So we can't always do all of them. So I just thought I'd pick the 4 that are included. So Psalm 61. Okay. It's a short psalm. And let's just go through it here. It's a famous psalm also. Hear my cry, O God. Listen to my prayer. From the end of the earth I call to you when my heart is faint. Lead me to the rock that is higher than I, for you are my refuge, a strong tower against the enemy. Let me abide in your tent forever, find refuge under the shelter of your wings. For you, O God, have heard my vows. You have given me the heritage of those who fear your name. Prolong the life of the king. May his years endure to all generations. May he be enthroned forever before God. Appoint steadfast love and faithfulness to watch over him. So I will always sing praises to your name as I pay my vows day after day. Okay. We get a little king language shoved in there in verses 6 and 7. I like the psalm until that was sort of like, I don't know what that has to do with anything.
Maybe.
But
Yeah.
obviously that occurs throughout the Psalter. This
I
idea of the
circled it
king.
and said, is David not the king at this point?
Right. It's sort of odd. Yes, absolutely.
Well, maybe he's talking about himself.
Yeah.
Either that or
Save me.
the office of king.
Mhm. I like this. I don't know what you make of this. It's sort of a famous line, but this verse 2, the second half of verse 2, lead me to the rock that is higher than I.
Rock of Ages.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
well-
also the self-deprecation that's part of that thing. Let me read it to you again. Lead me to the rock that is bigger than me. Okay, higher than I. It's an interesting notion that I want to be in a place where my ego and myself is swallowed up by the majesty of God. It's an interesting concept. A place higher than I, higher than I. It's a famous song, but interesting. I call to you, lead me to the rock that is higher than I. Huh. I think there are lots of rocks that are higher than I. In fact, most of the Rocky Mountains would qualify, I would think. But it's an interesting thing for the psalmist.
Ah, I think it's a
Yeah,
metaphor. It's a metaphor.
Sure. Oh, yes. All of these are metaphors. What
that's
do you hear?
true, but
Kathy, what do you hear in this metaphor?
I'm sorry. Would you ask me that again?
What do it is a metaphor, obviously.
Yeah.
What does it mean to say a rock higher than I?
What does it mean to me?
And others can join in too.
No,
Yeah,
I think of the 12 steps. My deceased husband went through a period early on in our marriage, a long time ago, and of course I joined him in terms of supporting him. But in the 12 steps, that's one of the 12 steps that you believe.
There's a power.
Yeah.
That you believe there's a higher power than you. Yes, that's one of the 12.
Yes, and that higher power is clearly, to me, without question, God. And in our case, Jesus Christ, his son, our Lord.
But I just love the way the psalmist invites us into that. I think it's very beautiful.
It's very beautiful. Yeah. There's a song, right? Can you sing it? Lead me to the rock.
That is higher than I don't know the song, but I've heard it. Yes. So that's higher than I don't know it.
Read me to the book.
All right. So anything with in our last few minutes here, those are the 4 Psalms I wanted to lift up. There's so much here in all this that I try to pick and choose because we just can't get through all of it. Was there
It's-
anybody that had any questions about the other Psalms?
In 59,
Mhm.
in the 9th verse, O God, art my fortress. And then in the last verse, he repeats, "Oh God, art my fortress." And I
Mhm.
think that would be more for Luther, a mighty
Yes.
forces, because God,
Mhm.
that just stuck out to me.
Yep. He wants to be protected. Did you notice that this Psalms twice has his enemies coming around as growling, howling dogs in
Yeah,
this Psalm
yeah,
50?
yeah.
And of course, if you had growling, howling dogs, you might need a fortress to be separated from them, certainly.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yes.
That's about it. I thought these were all down, but
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
a different point of view now that we talked about the kingship. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're winding down. I'd like to keep this at 50 minutes because often I have a meeting again at 7. But I do want to say I didn't get a chance to catch you, Kathy, but you know your friend Nancy died on Monday. I assume you know that.
Yeah, I do.
You
I'm
did
going
on-
to yes, I do. And I'm going
Yeah,
tomorrow.
it's a graveside funeral. Pastor Tim is doing it tomorrow, so
Yeah.
certainly surround that family with your prayers. But Tim will be representing us tomorrow at the
Okay.
graveside.
Yeah, I'll be there. I'll be there.
Okay.
She was
So
a
prayers for
very
what's that,
good
sorry?
friend of mine. Yeah.
So Nancy joined here maybe about 2 years ago. It's Nancy Bonjourn, and she was just a delightful person, and just recently has been in hospice. I did get a chance to see her several times, just being back from sabbatical.
She
So I was
told me
glad.
every time that you went to
Yeah, I
visit.
was able to visit and also meet some of her family and things. And she was just always such a joyous person, even in the midst of this latest pain. So, but Pastor Tim is going to be there for us, but I just wanted to say prayers for that family as well. So, thank
Yes.
you everybody for coming on. And next week, you're not too bad. We have 7 Psalms, 62 to 68, that we will take a look at. So we'll move from there. So everybody have a good night, and we will see you soon. Blessings.
Thank you.
Pastor John.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
All right.